Am I the asshole for asking my husband if he washed his hands? My husband and me seem to have different standards on hygiene and cleanliness. I might be overly worried about germs to him, but whenever we go places I want us to wash our hands. When we get back, he started making food today for himself, and I asked him if he washed his hands as a question, and he said, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And this led to a fight where I told him if he would just do it I wouldn't feel a need to ask, and he said I'm belittling him and then raised his voice and got mad. I told him not to talk to me like that. It's like getting to me that at night he doesn't always brush his teeth, never flosses, etc. So am I belittling and in the wrong? Not the asshole. All these people who think you have a germ issue are baffling. It is standard good practice to wash your hands after coming home from being out in public. It is also food prep 101 that you wash your hands before starting food prep. If people don't want to do these things, fine. But they shouldn't be getting defensive about it and asking what the fuck is wrong with you in response to asking your partner if they washed their hands is over the top aggressive. I hope you aren't treated this poorly on a regular basis. Not the asshole. I don't want to eat after someone with nasty hands has already touched the food. Not the asshole. Not washing his hands and handling your food if it's only his food. That's his problem, I guess. Is gross. If I read correctly, his dental hygiene is lacking too. I'd cool down and then address this. I could not be with someone with these issues. Not the asshole. His reaction was hostile and inappropriate. As his spouse, you should want the best out of each other. My dad doesn't wash his hands, even when he uses the bathroom. So I feel your pain. I think from his reaction, he's a bit insecure about this habit. Genuinely, was it not an issue prior to marriage? Not the asshole. It's just common sense to wash hands when you get back from going out. Because you live together. His actions or lack thereof directly affect you. If he gets sick, you're going to get sick too. He owes you and himself the courtesy of having basic hygiene. Just curious. How often are you sick? Do you feel you've gotten sick because of his lack of hygiene or from his spreading germs? Your answer won't make you right or wrong. But I'm just wondering. These are getting ridiculous. What is it with so many posts where husbands have bad personal hygiene? I know there are some posts about women. Doesn't always clean his teeth. Doesn't wash his hands. Did the pandemic never happen? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The bar for men is so low it's in hell. I would go with nah. It's kind of an incompatibility issue. There are people who are more keen on washing hands and hygiene and people who are not. I believe that you cannot really change a person at his/her core unless he/she really wants it. This is part of it. As if and how many children one wants and how one handles money or what is important in life. Someone commented that you should get divorced. It's pretty much always the little stuff that do it. It's not about washing hands per se, but more of your personal values. You can't infantilize him. You can't follow him around and make sure he washes his hands. He made food for himself and he can face his own consequences of not washing his hands. Should he be cleaning himself? Yeah. The only leg you have to stand on is if it affects you. He wouldn't be able to touch my food or touch my private parts until he washes his hands. He can't kiss me without brushing his teeth. Then maybe he'd get into the habit because you're not willing to sacrifice your own health and comfort because he's unhygienic. Leave him alone unless you're affected. Not the asshole hygiene matters. It matters a lot. Not the asshole we are still literally in a pandemic that the government refuses to acknowledge. Washing your hands isn't hard. Also leaping to what the fuck is wrong with you is a red flag the size of Texas. What a jump to make. Not gonna lie. I barely wash my hands compared to some of y'all. I've worked construction for a number of years and the opportunity to wash your hands sometimes isn't there. I've eaten with sheetrock dust all over me. Paint, sawdust etc. Now if I can wash my hands when they are that dirty I will. But I generally only wash my hands if they feel dirty or are visibly dirty or after using the bathroom. If I touch a doorknob or leave the house and I'm not touching greasy shit then I don't care. I rarely ever get sick as well. Not the asshole basic hygiene is expected from an adult. Not the asshole, did he wash his hand due? 'Cause it's nasty if he didn't. I refuse to believe this post is real. He probably knows and if he chooses not to wash his hands is a conscious choice and you asking is treating him like a child. I think you're not compatible if him washing his hands is very important to you and he prefers not to wash his hands. You're the asshole you weren't really asking him if he washed his hands. I mean, if he said no and continued on his merry way. What then? By asking the question, you were passive-aggressively telling him to wash his hands and making a judgment about his cleanliness. If you are concerned about his health, just say that. If germs freak you out, just say that. Making him feel like a child is not going to encourage him to listen. It's more likely to do the opposite. I'll wash up before making food. But I don't wash my hands every time I come back home feta being out. Not the asshole. We wash our hands when we get home and before preparing food. We also brush our teeth. Does he always yell at you? That's a deal breaker to me. Not the asshole. Not washing hands before preparing food is nasty anyway, but we just went through a pandemic. How can one not wash their hands? Info: do you ask it regularly or was this the first time? I would bet money he doesn't wash his hands after visiting the urinal. Men seem to consistently not act like adults and then get mad that their wives treat them like children. Not the asshole. It's dirty outside. If he gets sick you could too. His hygiene is awful. Not the asshole and his overreaction and disrespect over a simple question is concerning. I think it is gross to eat and prepare food before washing your hands. Listen. IDK if I have a normal family. But in my house, husband, myself, daughter, and son, we always remind each other to wash our hands when we get home. Always. And always have. That's been the norm since I can remember. Not only that, but before we eat, we all wash our hands. I will not let my husband get frisky me with unwashed hands. Absolutely not. I tell him he can give me a rooty and that works lol. Yuck. I always wash my hands as soon as I get back in the house from being out. Not the asshole. That's vile and nasty on his part. Face vomiting. Honestly, he probably doesn't as much, but at the same time nagging about it and belittling him isn't making it better. It is probably making him resent you and proper hygiene. You are both the Yes, you are belittling him and treating him like a toddler. He was making food for himself, not you. He probably overreacted due to your constant nagging.